What's up guys, Diego here from ProNDC. Welcome to another ESO build video. Today I want to focus on the Magicka Dragonknight PVE build update for the Wolfhunter DLC. So if you want to know what changed since the last patch, stay tuned. So that was the DPS test on the 6 mil skeleton. For the stats, I currently am a Dark Elf. Dark Elf being the best racial choice for Magicka Dragonknight PVE DPS. Other good races are of course the High Elf, Breton not so much, and all the other races don't really have any good racial bonuses that help you being a good DPS on the Magicka Dragonknight. We use the Thief Stone, we have all points into Magicka, and we have max health and max Magicka food. That's pretty much it for the stats. I will get to the overview now. I will just do a brief explanation, just quickly name some alternative sets, not talk about everything in detail. If you want a more detailed explanation, I recommend my Somerset version of this build. It's a longer video and I give you all the information you need in that video. So let's hop on to the overview. So as you can see, the sets that we use are exactly the same. So we have 2 pieces of Zahn, the monster set that gives us some additional crit and creates this nice fire beam. Really strong. However, you can also run Velkanskora if you want to. It's a bit weaker, it gives you more HP. The other option would be Grothdar, which I really recommend for trash fights, but it's also nice DPS. But for most DPS, single target wise, I recommend to go with Zahn at any time. Then we have 5 pieces of perfected Sororia. You can of course use the normal Sororia. It's really easy to farm, easier than other dungeon sets, but what you can run instead of Sororia if you do not have Somerset is Burning Spellweave on the body, combine that with Mother Sorrow on jewelry pieces and the staff, or run Julianos on the body and still wear Burning Spellweave. This also works. You can also wear Silks of the Sun, though I do not like that set too much and I do not want to drop my crit chance by a lot. So Perfected Sororia, we were infused on the big pieces, Divines on the small pieces, it's a little bit more DPS. And we have all Magicka enchanted, we had 1 heavy piece and 1 medium piece. For Burning Spellweave, all my Jewelry pieces are enchanted with spell damage. They are all arcane. I usually say that you can go with 1 or 2 Bloodthirsty. Here I do not recommend to go more than 1 Bloodthirsty because you do not really have an execute. On the 6 skeleton, 1 or 2 Bloodthirsty might outperform arcane a bit. That is because if you play correctly, you will have your ultimate, your Standard of Might ready during execute, which boosts your DPS or the damage output of you by 15%, and that stacks really well with Bloodthirsty for execute, so you will get better results like that. For trials, I really recommend to go either all arcane or just 1 piece Bloodthirsty at max. As the burning spell with staff, we were in Inferno Staff in infused with the shock damage enchantment. You want to adjust your enchantments to the situation that you're currently in. So that basically means that you might want to have a Berserker enchantment on a different burning spell with staff. For the Maelstrom Inferno Staff, which is also infused and has a fiery weapon enchantment, you might want to have one with the Berserker glyph on that. And you also, of course, want to have one with a prismatic glyph for undead and Daedric bosses. So for pure single target, most DPS you have with a fiery weapon enchantment and a charged weapon enchantment, but you have to adjust the enchantments to the situation. If you want to play it safe, put fiery weapon on the back bar because your blockade will keep on proccing the fiery weapon enchantment, and a Berserker on the front bar. That is your safest bet. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the sets. I gave you some alternatives which are easy to get. Let's hop onto skills. So our main spellable is of course the Molten Whip. We use it when our dots are active, and there's pretty much nothing else to say about it. Then we have Engulfing Flames, single target dot, really important. If you are a Magicka Dragonknight in your group, your tanks do not have to run this ability, which is nice. You will be able to have good uptimes on the priority targets of Engulfing Flames, which increases the damage received of the target, the fire damage received by 10%, which is a lot because we have a lot of fire damage, a lot of fire weapon enchantments like fire damage glyphs in the group, a lot of Blockade of Flames, stuff like that, Fire Rage ultimates. So Engulfing Flames really important. Then we have Spell Symmetry. We use that for sustain. So we trade HP for Magicka, which is nice, and Spell Symmetry also has the positive effect of decreasing the cost of the next skill that we use. Really nice skill. Then we have Burning Embers. This is the skill that heals us. So we basically use Spell Symmetry and we use Burning Embers after that, and that heals us. So it's not a big deal that we trade HP for Magicka. On top of that, this is a group scenario build. So we have healers in our group that will heal us anyway, but in case our healers are not paying attention, we can heal ourselves with Burning Embers. Really good single target dot, heals a lot, and yeah, that's pretty much everything there is to it. Then we have Inner Light, 5% on Magicka, 2% more from the passives, pretty self-explanatory. Fiery Rage, because we need Destruction Staff ability on the front bar for the Ancient Knowledge passive. We rarely use it, mostly on trash or in situations where the target moves a lot and we do not have a lot of time, or not as much time as we would need for the Standard of Might because it lasts much longer. Standard of Might, the ultimate on the back bar, increases the damage dealt by 15% and decreases the damage received by the same amount, and so it's really nice, but they are both very expensive. You might want to have Meteor in some occasions if you want a bursty ultimate that costs less, but Standard of Might should be fine for most of the time. Then we have Blockade of Fire, self-explanatory. AoE dot activates the Maelstrom Inferno Staff. Then we have Rearming Trap, costs stamina, fighter skill ability, and it gives us minor force, 10% more crit damage. Eruption, another AoE damage over time ability, lasts 18 seconds, really nice. And then we have Flames of Oblivion, lasts 15 seconds, does 4 hits, and is really strong. Then we have Harness Magicka as our damage shield, and I don't think I have to explain that at all. That's pretty much it for the skills. Let's go to champion points. So for champion points, I have My green CP here, this is a pretty standard setup. You might want to put some points into Sprinter. You might not need a lot of points into Tumbling or Shadowboard. It depends on you. What I always recommend is the 75 into Arcanist, and the rest is up to you. For the red CP here, you can use this basically in all content. However, if you want to minimize or maximize the damage reduction, you might want to distribute the CP a bit differently. This is just like a standard setup that I have, where like the damage reduction is evenly split. But there's content where you do not receive physical damage or magical damage at all, and you just want to redistribute the champion points here. What's more important is the blue CP. So I currently have 56 into Elemental Expert, 20 points into Spell Erosion, 56 into Elfborn, 52 into Master at Arms, and 75 into Thaumaturge. Having 75 into Thaumaturge activates the Exploiter passive, so when the target is set off balance, we deal 10% more damage. That is nice, not just the stamina DPS profit from that. However, or like most of the damage that we do is actually still damage over time, or a bit more than half of the damage that we do. So it's really important to boost that, and in addition to that we get the Exploiter passive. I experimented a little bit with different CPs, so I'll put like 61 into Master at Arms, 60 into Staff Expert to get the Butcher passive, which increases the damage of all light attacks in Execute by an additional 5%. That's a lot because light attacks are still the strongest damage abilities, or like the strongest source of damage for Magicka builds. So that's really nice, really important. And it was still a little bit weaker compared to the 75 into Thaumaturge. And when I did the test, the comparison, I didn't even use a Blockade of Storms to compare that. They were almost on the same level, but still 75 into Thaumaturge a tiny bit stronger. But that's pretty much it for the blue CP. If you have any questions regarding champion points, just ask me in the comment section, and I will just go to the target skeleton and explain the rotation. So we're here on the target skeleton. I will try to basically break down rotation, so even if you are a complete beginner, you will be able to reproduce the rotation that I use in the DPSs or in trials and fights in general. So basically what we do, we have our 3 short dots: Engulfing Flames, Burning Embers, and the Blockade of Fire. You can of course play a flexible rotation where you just recast stuff when it runs out. I personally prefer to have just like the simple static rotation in the Magicka Dragonknight, because it's still really strong and it's a lot of fun to play that way. You can just easily copy that on console. So we recast or cast our short dots, starting with Engulfing Flames, then Burning Embers, and the Blockade of Fire, which basically looks like this. So Engulfing, Burning Embers, Blockade of Fire. If you're new to DK, you might want to practice this a little bit, because you have to do 2 bar swaps, like you swap to the back bar, just put down 1 skill, swap back to the front bar. Take some practice, but it's really easy to learn. After that, we use our main spammable Molten Whip 4 times. Then we use 1 time Spell Symmetry, and then we start recasting the dots. So it looks like this. So we start with the dots, Engulfing, Burning, Blockade, 1, 2, 3, 4 whips, Spell Symmetry, Engulfing, Burning, Blockade. So we want to make sure our Blockade is up the whole time. And yeah, if you are completely new to MagDK, this is what you want to learn. Keeping these dots up and using your spammable and then Spell Symmetry. 4 times the whip, 1 Spell Symmetry, and then recast your dots. But those are not the only dots that we have. We have our long duration dots. So Eruption 18 seconds, Rearming Trap about 15 seconds, and also 15 seconds for Flames of Oblivion. So what we actually do is, when we start to fight, we put down our long duration dots: Eruption, Trap, Flames of Oblivion. Then the short duration dots. Then we use our whip 4 times, like we practiced. Spell Symmetry, recast the short duration dots. And then our long duration dots are about to run out again, so we recast them. Use the whip 2 times, then recast the short duration dots, and then we start all over. So So it basically looks like this. We put Eruption, Trap, Flames of Oblivion down, and the short duration dots, then 4 whips, Spell Symmetry, short duration dots, the long duration dots, 2 whips, 1, 2, and 4 whips. 1, 2, 3, 4. Spell Symmetry, Engulfing. The long duration dots are about to run out. 2 whips. And now my Magicka is out because I'm not using Drain and I'm not using my ultimate. Speaking of ultimate, when is the best time to use your Standard of Might? Well, if you are not low on Magicka like I was right now, I recommend to replace one of your Molten Whips with your ultimate. So you might want to bar swap and use the ultimate while you're on the front bar. Do not recast it between your dots, like you want to maximize the damage output by having all your dots up, then using the Standard of Might to boost your spammables as much as possible. And then because of that, like, we just do one less Molten Whip, so we only have to do 3. Or if you do between the dots, you only have to use 1 Molten Whip, recast Engulfing Flames, etc. And yeah, that's pretty much there is to it. That's the short update for the Wolfhunter patch. If you have any further questions, just ask me in the comment section. I gladly answer your questions there. And like I said, if you want to have more detailed explanation of the class, check out the Somerset build. And I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. If you do not want to miss any more ESO content, hit the sub button. I'd really appreciate it. And I also hope you tune in next time. So hope to see you then. Bye bye.